Sturm, Hachi. They are two of the most broken COs of all time, and pretty much everyone knows this. But the big question we will be asking in today's video is, which one of them is more broken? Now before we get into the game, I want to tell a quick story from my childhood. As a teenager, I used to play Advance Wars 2 a lot on the cartridge, and me and my friends, we would bring our Game Boys to school and we would play between classes. Sometimes we'd even play in the classes themselves if we could get away with it, and sometimes we'd play after school, and we would even host tournaments. We had a lot of fun with this game. Sometimes we would just pass the Game Boy around, other times we'd bring our link cables and link them up, and we just really enjoyed this game. This game was very popular for a brief period at my school. However, whoever could get their hands on these two COs, Sturm and Hachi, they were automatically treated as the cool kids. This was a big status symbol because getting these two COs was not easy. I remember working at it during an entire summer vacation. I would play this game every single day trying to get my hands on Sturm and Hachi. How you had to unlock Sturm is you had to beat the campaign with an overall S rank requirement. This is considered very easy to do today, but back then it was considered a real feat. This was very hard to do. But in order to get Hachi, you'd have to go even further. You actually had to beat the hard campaign. And me and my friends, we considered the hard campaign pretty much impossible. Most of us weren't able to beat the normal campaign, but beating the hard campaign was considered even more insane. And I remember when we actually started getting our hands on Sturm and Hachi, that allowed us to play Sturm versus Hachi, and we considered this like the most fun matchup we could play, because on their own, playing Sturm or Hachi, it's like playing with cheat codes. You know, Sturm's units are insanely strong, Hachi is just a snowball CO, he just snowballs completely out of control. But against each other, it felt kinda balanced. They were equally broken, so to say. And thus, me and my friends, we would have a lot of discussions about which one of them would be better. Half of us were like, yeah, Sturm is obviously the better one. Half of us were like, no, Hachi is much better than Sturm. And we would have lots of arguments, and we play lots of matches against each other to try and figure out which one of them were the more broken one. However, we're talking 16-year-old Mangs and his friends here, not exactly top-tier Advance Wars players. What would happen if we took two of the best players in the world and had them play a match like this against each other? Which one would come out on top? However, there is a small problem. You see, while Hachi is unchanged on Advance Wars by Web, he is pretty much as broken as he has always been, Sturm has been changed. They decided to do something weird with him, and I'm not entirely sure why. They changed him more similar to how he was in Advance Wars 1. On Advance Wars by Web, Sturm has the plus 20% defense, but he doesn't have plus 20% firepower like he used to have on the cartridge. Instead, he has minus 20% firepower. So he's 40% weaker in terms of firepower. And this is how Sturm used to be in Advance Wars 1 when you unlocked him. I guess they didn't want to give you the campaign mode Sturm because they considered him too broken, so they gave you kind of like a mellowed down Sturm. He has high defense but low firepower, and his meteor would only deal 4 HP of damage as opposed to the 8 that it dealt in the campaign. And I guess this is kind of the rationale for creating Advance Wars by Web Sturm. He's kind of like a weird hybrid. He still has his super meteor, but he also has a normal power now that deals 4 HP of damage. As a result, you can't really do this classic matchup anymore because, well, Hachi is clearly way stronger than this version of Sturm. But if you're a little bit creative, there is a way you can actually recreate this matchup, at least almost, not completely, but you can do it in a small way. What we did was we took a map that is, we decided on a map, which map we wanted to play on, and then we simply created a modified version of the map where the Sturm player begins with 4 comm towers that cannot be captured back. As you can see, they're located in the corners, where they're far out of the way, and there's no shoals here. So even if you wanted to, you could not transport an infantry over here and take these comm towers. As a result, you now have a Sturm player with a day-to-day bonus of plus 20% firepower, because of course on Advance Wars by Web he has minus 20%, so you need 4 comm towers to make up the difference. And then we get a matchup that is almost similar to what it would be on the cartridge. I say almost because it's not completely accurate. This Sturm is actually a little bit weaker. In Advance Wars 2, Sturm would actually get a 20% firepower and defense boost whenever he popped Meteor Strike, bringing it up to 40% in total. Here on Advance Wars by Web, he only gets the standard plus 10% boosts that all the other COs get, so his Meteor Strike is a little bit weaker. We also have a bit of a gentleman's agreement that the Sturm player will not activate their normal power. He's only allowed to use his superpower to try and get as close to the Advance Wars 2 matchup as possible. Furthermore, we are playing on Advance Wars by Web, which means that there will be dual strike units available, like the Mega Tank. We consider considered banning them, but we thought that it would just make Hachi way too weak if we did that. So we allowed dual strike units. This is like an Advanced Wars by Web map, so there's also comm towers on it normally. So it's not completely similar to what the matchup would be in Advanced Wars 2, but it's as close as we can get, in our opinion. Now, let's introduce the players, shall we? One of the players obviously don't need much introduction at all. It's Djus. You've seen him before. We've done many videos together. He's ridiculously good. And he is going up against Operation Storm. You may remember this guy from my tournament, the Grandmasters tournament. He played in it. He didn't do super well in a live format, but in normal standard play, he is insanely strong. This is a guy that is known for his meticulous planning. He uses the move planner to great effect. He also has a love of mechs, hence the name. And he's very, very fun to watch. He plays really, really well. To give you guys an idea of just how strong these players are, here you can see the all-time scoreboard. You can see Djus is ranked the 16th most powerful player in the world, and Operation Storm is number 9. So this is pretty much as top tier as it gets. So the question is, ladies and gentlemen, which one of these CEOs are stronger than the other? Is it Hachi or is it Sturm? Of course, Hachi, he's a snowball CEO. That's his entire gimmick. His day-to-day isn't that strong. He gets a 10% discount. It's good, but it's not broken. His normal power barter, yeah, it's pretty good. Sets his deployment cost to minus 50% for one turn. This can allow him to build some very powerful units early on. But it's the Merchant Union that truly makes him into a monster. This not only gives him minus 50% deployment cost, but it turns every single city on the map into a base. This means that he can snowball his unit count like no other CEOs. It's like a sensei, except that he also gets other good units in addition to his infantry spam. However, Sturm is pretty broken himself. 20% firepower, 20% defense, perfect movement over all terrain, and a very, very powerful meteor strike that pretty much invalidates a blob on the map. Now, if you play this match on the cartridge, the meteor would actually be a little random. On Advanced Wars by Web, it always hits the greatest accumulation of values, and so it's a little bit easier for Storm to dance around this meteor, but it's still pretty devastating. The map that we are playing on is called Malekith Trail. It is a map on the standard league pool. It is a mixed base map. We struggled trying to pick a map that wouldn't favor any of these CEOs in one way or another. Hachi obviously won big maps where he can put some distance between himself and his opponent, so he can really get snowball himself. Whereas Sturm, he wants either heavily terrained maps or very small maps where he can just roll over his opponent. And we decided to pick this one for multiple reasons. It's a mixed base map, which means that Sturm has a slight edge because day-to-day powers are considered very strong there. But we considered this map was like big enough to allow Hachi to actually shine. But also has some terrain on it that allows Sturm to utilize his recons and other units, you know? So, but obviously this is a map-dependent matchup. You know, the bigger the map, the better it is for Hachi. The smaller the map, the better it is for Sturm. So we landed on this one, and as you can see, we have modified it so that Sturm begins with 4 comm towers, putting his day-to-day firepower up to plus 20%. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started with this match. With some lovely, relaxing Hachi music. So, this map is very fun to play on. It's one of my favorite ones in the standard pool. It looks like a high funds map. It really does. You almost get the impression that this is high funds, but it's not. But the income can go very high on this map. Now, being Advanced Wars by Web, we are following Global League rules. This means that whoever captures 48 properties will win by a capture victory. That's 75% of all properties on the map. And this map also actually has a total unit count cap of 70, as opposed to the normal 50. So this also favors Hachi, because Sturm is not so likely to reach this unit cap, but Hachi might, because look at all the cities here. If Storm gets his superpower and he has, let's say, 25 cities, he can easily deploy 25 units plus the one he gets from his bases, if he calculates his superpower well. And it is Operation Storm, so I think we can conclude that he absolutely will do that. So, but yeah, both players, early on, they're just going to go capture neutral properties. But aggression starts pretty early on this map. Now, you may notice that Sturm has one property over here that Hachi needs to capture. This is what's considered a first turn advantage because basically Hachi goes first, so Sturm starts with an extra property that Hachi has to capture. This kind of equalizes the playing field. People have done a lot of testing of this, and just look at this. Look at this. I mean, this is one of the reasons why Sturm movement is so good. It allows him to reach properties that other CEOs just can't, because his infantry, look at that, another property that he can get. So due to this, Sturm will get a income advantage early on due to just having more properties than his opposition. And then what Sturm needs to do is he needs to press his advantage early, because again, Sturm is a hyper-aggressive CO, Hachi is a snowball CO. This means that Sturm has to rush Hachi. If this game drags out in any way, Hachi will just continue to get stronger and stronger and stronger with each merchant union. And one of the reasons why he's such a snowball CO is because he generates more units with the CO power. And then those units will generate more CO powers, which will generate more CO units, which will generate more CO powers, which will generate more CO units, and on and on and on it goes. Hachi also has a hidden component to him that a lot of people are not aware of, and that's the fact that whenever he pops his powers, all of his units globally on the map are treated as being worth half as much, even the ones he did not deploy with Barter or Merchant Union. So this means, for example, let's say he pops his Merchant Union, and you kill his tank. Normally, you'd get 3,500 power charge out of that, but that tank is actually worth half as much, so you only get half that. So not only does Hachi get cheap units, but whenever he pops his powers, he's actually limiting the power generations of his opponents, which really adds up against, especially when you're up against a CO with a huge power bar as Sturm has. So this is something that a lot of people are not aware of, and it's a reason why Hachi is even stronger than you may think. I wouldn't say it's like the strongest part about him, but it's a nice little bonus that most people are not aware of. It's just due to the way the game is coded, this is just how it is. It doesn't really differentiate between the units deployed during Merchant Union and the units deployed not during Merchant Union, if that makes sense. As we can see, Deegis has already built a recon here. This is definitely the right choice. Sturm recons are ridiculously strong, especially when they have 20% extra firepower. Those can be used to interrupt captures. They can be used to harass infantry. They force the Hachi player to build a tank early on to counter them, but here's the thing. Mechstorm builds a tank to ward off this recon. Now this recon can just go this way instead. And look at the mobility of this thing. Look at the amount of squares that it threatens. Forests, plains, it doesn't matter. This recon will go wherever it wants. And this will be very, very hard for Mechstorm to deal with early on. And just the fact that Sturm, look at how he just darts over those mountains. I mean, it is absolutely disgusting. Look at that recon. What are you going to do against that? And it's a scary recon as well. Another recon from Deegis. Yeah, Deegis knows exactly how to play Sturm. Just recon spam out the wazoo. It's going to be very, very hard for Mechstorm to drive that away. Recons are so cheap too. 4k to the tank 7k. You know, it's extremely hard for him to deal with. So let's see what happens here. Mechstorm, you know, just chilling for the time being, building some more tanks, building artillery. Very important to have artillery against Sturm. Mechstorm needs walls, and he needs indirect units to deal with Sturm, because he cannot go head-to-head against 2020 units. He needs to weaken them a little bit with artillery. Otherwise, it's going to be very tough for him to actually deal any kind of damage. Remember, defense in Advanced Wars is very broken. The way it stacks with defense, you put a tank on a city, that tank now has 50% extra defense. It's almost impossible to kill cost-effectively. And keep in mind, there are comm towers on this map, 2 per player, so Sturm can potentially get up to 60% firepower on a day-to-day basis if he captures both of his comm towers, which is going to be very hard for Hachi to deal with. So let's see if Deegis decides to use these recons in any meaningful way. Again, moving them out, blocking the cities with them, continuing to move his infantry through forests, puts the recon on top of the comm tower so that Mechstorm cannot get it. And now he's also building some tanks as well. But, you know, Mechstorm, he's still chilling. He doesn't feel the pressure quite yet. He's just going to capture whatever properties he can, try to get as much economy as possible. Moves his artillery out as well, trying to ward away that little recon, but it's so tough to do that. I mean, just look at this. I mean, this is absolutely disgusting. What is he going to do? Though that artillery is going to be very hard to keep alive, especially with those recons peeking about. But he's building some battlecopters, and that is good. Look at this. Look at this. Tank versus infantry on city. 3 HP of damage. I mean, how disgusting is that? Can hardly interrupt captures. So already we can see Deegis is about to capture some properties now. I wouldn't be surprised to see him take the income lead very early on. And he can do this, like ballsy as this move may seem. There's a tank in the vicinity. That infantry has so much defense. Deegis definitely feels confident in doing that right now. So in comes the tank. He can even place the tank on the plains there. It's guarded by another tank, obviously. But this would not be possible with any other CO, because look at the movement cost. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Normally, this tank doesn't cover this tank, but since he's Sturm, it does. So he can just get away with making plays that no other COs would be able to get away with. And here we go, even attacks with the recon. He doesn't care that the recon can be hit by the tank. He knows that he has to limit Hachi's income advantage early on, because the more money Hachi has to work with, the more he's going to snowball. So Deegis is doing a very good job here, just trying to limit Mechstorm's economy as much as humanly possible. On Mechstorm's turn, he continues capping properties and he creates a little bit of a wall here. Again, Mechstorm's walls are going to be very solid. Look at that. Perfect. The artillery is now covering most of these units. Of course, this recon can still strike this infantry, but he only has one artillery to work with, but that's still a pretty good wall. And he just has to wall like crazy here, because these recons will be able to pierce through anywhere. Brings his battlecopter into the action to ward away that recon sitting on top of the property. That's definitely a property that Mechstorm wants to get his hands on. And look at this. He even takes damage. He takes damage from the recon. I mean, how disgusting is that? Of course, I mean, this is luck damage, but still, Sturm does get a little bit of a bonus to his firepower. It does add up over multiple engagements. So Deegis' turn rolls in. We're currently on day 7. And you can see here that he's already starting to secure a income advantage, 28,000 to 25,000. And it's just going to increase. Now he even goes and captures this property. Mechstorm only has a single infantry. A single infantry from Hachi will not be able to take on Advanced Force 2 Sturm in a fair one-on-one battle. Even if he gets the first strike here, Sturm will just get fire back and kill the unit on the retaliation strike. So already, and he can reinforce so much quicker too, just due to being able to move over the mountains. I mean, this is just disgusting. Brings in artillery of his own. Why not? I mean, it's going to be very hard for Mechstorm to break through any walls here. And then, again, this is just more stuff that Sturm can do thanks to his increased defense. 50% extra defense on these tanks. What is Mechstorm going to do against that unless he positions his artillery more? He's not really going to be able to do that at all. Now, Deegis is sending this recon back to get prepared so it can come back and fight another day. So now, we are really seeing the pressure starting to mount here. Deegis is playing this beautifully. He's even capturing this lab. I forgot to say this at the start of the map, but how labs work on Advanced Force by Web is that when there are no HQs on the map, labs will work as HQs instead. So how you win via HQ cap is you need to capture all the labs. So there are, I do believe both players have 2 labs. Mechstorm has these 2 labs and Deegis has these 2 labs. So in order to win the game, you have to take both. This one is pretty easy for Deegis to take. This one's a little harder because it's in reach of 2 bases, but it's still not entirely impossible, especially considering his defense. So do keep an eye out on this. Day 8 rolls in. Look at this disgusting trade right here. I mean, what is he going to do? Even takes an HP back on the battlecopter. I mean, look at this. Battlecopter versus recon on the city. It's disgusting. You hate to see it. And he has to actually spend movement cost moving over these mountains as well. Unlike Deegis, who can just cruise ahead. But of course, sacrifices one of his infantry to interrupt that cap as well. Trying his best to try and limit Sturm's momentum early on. But I can absolutely tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is about to get very nasty for the Hachi player. You see, he has to box up his units perfectly in order to ward off this tank aggression. And Mechstorm, he creates walls pretty much perfectly. He also gets a Neo-Tank out. He pretty much has no choice in this regard. I mean, he needs some kind of high-tech units to ward away Sturm. But it's not easy. It's not easy at all. And now, we will really see Sturm mount up his aggression and really try to pressure Hachi. Look at the income disparity already. And here Deegis comes in. 31,000 to 26,000. Tanks and recons. Just look at the speed at which Sturm can front switch his entire army over. I mean, this is disgusting to look at. In a moment's notice, he'll just have his entire army be in a different place. Build some medium tank. Sturm's medium tank can definitely challenge Hachi's Neo tank, no problem at all. Even if Hachi's Neo tank gets the first strike, it's going to be tough for him to deal with. Pulls back his recon to get healed. Even shoots with another recon on the battlecopter. The disrespect, ladies and gentlemen, the absolute disrespect from Sturm right here. I mean, this is absolutely disgusting. Look at that. How often do you see a recon going toe-to-toe against a battlecopter? This reminds me of the Combi vs. Colin battle. Deegis now caps another city. And here, he also starts to take the comm tower. This is really bad news for Sturm. He really wants this comm tower. He doesn't want to let D just capture it. The more firepower D just gets, the more difficult it's going to be for Sturm to wall anything. Takes a shot at the recon. I think he'll be able to kill it. And indeed, he does. This allows him to take this city, and he can also wall it off with this infantry. Although, will he actually do that? Let's find out. He has to prevent this infantry from taking this property. He needs, like, it's so important for Hachi to accumulate income early on. If he doesn't get enough income, then his powers just won't snowball him as hard as he would want to against an opponent like this. You can see how careful Sturm is with his walling right here. He has to build a medium tank and another artillery. Degis is really laying on the pressure right here. He's coming in very hard and very fast. But of course, Degis is also under pressure here because he knows that if he doesn't apply enough pressure early on, he's toast when the Merchant Union comes in. But Degis continues to cap several properties on his turn, 35,000 to 26,000. I mean, this is starting to get very nasty. 36,000, and he's working on this comm tower as well. Doesn't look like Sturm will be able to take it away from him. And now he just goes in. Look at this with this comm. Oh my god, look at the firepower of this tank. One-shots the infantry on road. One-shots the other infantry on the road. And just continues to move in. He doesn't care that there's a medium tank and a neo tank in the vicinity. He just goes for it. My goodness. Look at that wall breaking. He gets the artillery. The things you can do with perfect movement and 20% extra firepower, and he brings in the artillery to guard his units. What is Sturm going to do against this kind of aggression? He doesn't have his Merchant Union ready. There's still 3 stars away until he gets it. So already you can see Degis just piling on the pressure, pushing Sturm back on every single front. Will it be enough though? He retreats his infantry here, realizes he can't capture his property, but that's fine. He's forced Sturm to divert some units away, which allows him to advance in this area. Now Degis is bringing out the Neo-Tank here as well. The Sturm Neo-Tank, man, there's really nothing Sturm can do about it unless he builds a Mega. Sturm Neo-Tank, he's not going to be able to face it. Even if he strikes this with a Neo-Tank of his own, he's still going to come out losing that exchange. So day 10 rolls in. Sturm now, he's behind 10,000 value, or sorry, income. In terms of unit value, he's behind almost 40,000. Unit count, Degis is leading as well, 40 to 31. This is looking really bad. This is where the Hachi player will struggle the most. Around day 9-10, before the Merchant Union comes in, this is not looking good for him. But he just has to hold out a little bit. So in he comes, takes a shot where he can get it, even places his Neo-Tank in range of the artillery. Now this may look like madness, but keep in mind, he wants to generate that value. He wants to generate that value as much as possible. Even brings in the medium tank. He has to do damage here. Gets a little bit of a cute shot on the infantry. Continues to take shots at his infantry. Even able to kill some of them. That's very good. Doesn't attack here, though, for some reason. I guess he doesn't want to weaken his battlecopter even further. And just continues to wall. Continues to hold out until the Merchant Union is ready. And look at what Sturm is going to do right now, ladies and gentlemen. This is really well played. When I saw him do this, I was like, oh my god. Look at this. So, you really expect most players to panic, right? And build a ton of units. But Sturm doesn't want to do that. He builds only infantry. He's behind. Yet he only builds infantry. Now, why does he do this? It's because his Merchant Union is right around the corner. He knows he's going to get it next turn. So the more money that he can save up, similar to how Colin works with his Gold Rush, the more money he can save up in the bank, the more that money will pay off when his Merchant Union comes in. So he will get around 40 to 50k income next turn. He will have 40 to 50k funds to spend on units. Those funds will effectively be doubled because he gets a 50% discount. So the fact that he took a turn to save up his money now, that means he's going to get a lot of value out of his Merchant Union next turn. But it does mean that he also gives up some map presence because these units will come out later. And Degis might be able to capitalize on that. Degis' turn rolls in. He finishes capping the comm tower. 37,000 income right now. He is piling on the aggression. Now he's even threatening to end the game instantly because this is Sturm's final lab. So if Sturm doesn't stop this capture, he will actually just straight out lose the game. And look at Degis positioning his units in such a way that it's going to be very hard for him to reach that lab. And this is really... And now Degis is capping even more cities. He's threatening to get up to 38k. If he gets up to 48s, then he will just win the match instantly via capture. So the pressure is really on there. Now Aegis does take the shot on the Neotank, almost filling up Mechstorm's power bar. One of the most disgusting things about Merchant Union is just how easy it is to charge up 5 stars, one of the cheapest powers in the game. But Aegis is not faced by that. He realizes that he has to do everything he can to try and punish Hachi as much as possible because he knows the Merchant Union is coming in. Even takes a shot at the Battlecopter. This is hilarious. So, builds a bomber, builds an artillery, needs some high-tech units, even puts the recon out of sight to ward it away from the enemy battlecopters. And day 11 rolls in, ladies and gentlemen, and this is where things are going to get really wild. Now, Mechstorm, he does take a couple of shots here, which is a little weird. I'm not entirely sure why he does this, but then he pops Merchant Union, and oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. 53,000 in the bank. 53,000 in the bank. He has 25 properties in total. That's minus bases. I think he has 4 bases. So that's 21 cities that are now effectively bases. Let me tell you, the amount of time Mechstorm took thinking out this particular move, I think 3 to 4 days of real time. We were all sitting around waiting for this. We were like, when are you going to finish your turn? He's like, no, I'm not done yet. I need to calculate this turn properly. So he spent 4 days thinking out this Merchant Union right here. Let's see what he decides to do. Obviously, he wants to fight first to free up the cities. This city needs to be cleared. You can see Deidris is smart. He's sitting on his cities because every city that he blocks is 1 less base that Hachi gets on his turn. Let's see how many bases he'll be able to dislodge here. Keep in mind, he also has to spend time interrupting this capture unless he wants Deidris to straight out just win. And he needs to be careful because Deidris can also join cap here. So here comes the first Mega Tank. This is a good move. He needs to ward away the Neotank. He also builds an anti-air in preparation for the bomber. An artillery, an infantry on the city. Oh my god, look at this. Another Mega Tank. Now, I don't know why it says he has minus 19,000 value here. I think the replay viewer is a little confused because it doesn't have the Hachi discount programmed in, so it's showing Mechstorm as having less money than he actually does. This will probably be corrected next turn, though. But Mechstorm comes in, deals some damage to the infantry. He gets a 10% boost as well. Keep this in mind. Advanced Force 2 Hachi does not get this. Advanced Force 2 Hachi only gets 10% extra defense, but on Advanced Force by Web, he gets 10% firepower as well because everyone gets the dual strike boost. He builds an artillery on this city. Even is able to apply a little bit of pressure down here. There we go. Builds more infantry. Even more infantry. A transport copter for 2,500 and another artillery. And I think that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Even more infantry on this side. I mean, just look at this. Look at this. He just went up to 50 units. I mean, this is really, just, you don't see any other COs capable of doing this. I mean, look at his value. 172,000. Now, the replay viewer doesn't properly show the halved value, but during this turn, Deidris is only going to get half power from killing enemy units. So he already gets half, and then they're halved again, so basically 25% of their original value. So just look at how the battlefield just suddenly equalized. However, Deidris is 3 stars away from his meteor strike. Will he be able to get it? Let's find out. He's also up to 39,000 income. This is starting to get very scary. He's not going to let up the aggression, though. He is threatening yet another property, and now he's also threatening to get this comm tower, which would put him up to 60%. One-shots the infantry on the city. Pretty impressive. Bomber comes in. That's a very scary threat against the Mega Tank. And he just continues to sit on those cities, which is going to make it almost impossible for Mechstorm to dislodge them. But you can see just how scary Hachi is. I mean, this is absolutely terrifying. Builds a battlecopter and an artillery. And now he has to retreat a little bit because just look at these mega tanks. I mean, what is Deidris going to do against this? But he continues to threaten properties where he can, even deals a little bit of damage to the infantry to prevent his cap game. Day 12 rolls in. At this point, Maxstorm has to start worrying about the Meteor Strike, because that Meteor Strike is going to be nasty. So he needs to start spreading his units out. But he has some Mega Tanks now. Can't even kill the Sturm Infantry, though. I mean, how pathetic is this? Infantry versus Mega Tank versus Sturm Infantry is not able to kill. I think it's a luck roll. I think it's like 97 to 103 or something like that. But he will get that Merchant Union back very quickly because he has so many units now. So the more units Sturm kill, the more overpowered Hachi will become. So you can see Maxstorm is starting to push Deegis back here in this corner. And strong as Deegis' units are, they will not survive being outnumbered to this degree. So Maxstorm just needs to hold out, be patient. Now you can see he's starting to spread his units out because that meteor is coming in. It's going to come in next turn. It's going to be very, very nasty. He's trying to get the luck roll. It doesn't work out, though. Not with 1 HP. It's just not going to work, sadly. Ooh, Maxstorm is going to get hit. The meteor is probably going to land here, I would assume. This is going to be very nasty. It's going to take a big chunk out of his unit value. He still has to play defensively. Sturm's units are just that strong. Here he's going for the Com Tower. Deegis can interrupt this with a Battlecopter if he wants to. The question is, does Deegis want to commit an entire Battlecopter to denying Maxstorm 10% firepower? Maybe he should. I don't know. I don't remember if he did or not. We'll find out. And, yeah. I don't know why Maxstorm just sacked that unit. Did he maybe think that he would be able to... Did he maybe think that he'd be able to do something here? I'm not entirely sure. So, day 12 rolls in, ladies and gentlemen. Deegis captures yet another property and another one. 41,000 income to 23,000. This is starting to become a big problem. These are like income sums we usually see in Hive funds. And it looks like Deegis is going to deny this Com Tower. There isn't really much Maxstorm can do to deny him this. And I do believe Deegis will be able to get his Meteor Strike if he wants. If he wants to sack enough units, he can get his Meteor Strike this turn. But I'm not entirely sure if he will. Let's find out. The Bomber actually goes this way now to threaten these units, forcing Maxstorm to build Anti-Air in this vicinity. And Deegis is threatening another property. I mean, he's going to have 42,000 to 22,000 at this point. 20k income disparity. I mean, that is just brutal. And Deegis is now sacking Battlecopters. He definitely wants the Meteor Strike, and in it comes this. Boom! I mean, let's see how much damage that meteor did, shall we? 173,000. That's Hachi's combined unit value right now. The Meteor Strike comes in. Boom! Down to 136,000. So how much damage is that? About 30k. That's pretty good. That's almost like a little Winter Fury. And it also just completely invalidates these units right here. And furthermore, Sturm's units are now boosted by a further 10% in firepower and defense. This makes it so hard for Maxstorm to do anything on this turn. Meteor also doesn't provide power charge to the units. It's just straight up HP removal. So these are units that Maxstorm is not going to enjoy any power from on this particular turn. So suddenly, looks like Sturm has equalized the playing field a little bit. Suddenly, the forces that Maxstorm has in this area, they don't look so hot anymore. But let's see, he sacks a Battlecopter, interestingly enough. Is he trying to get Merchant Union? I think that's exactly what he's trying to do. Yeah, he's sacking units to try and get his Merchant Union back. He needs it. He desperately wants that Merchant Union. Is he going to get it, though? Oh my god, he's just throwing units into the meat grinder at this point. He realizes he needs units. He even combines some units to get some more funds up so that his Merchant Union will become even stronger. And I do think that's actually a pretty smart idea. Because every unit you combine together means more funds for Merchant Units, which means you're effectively doubling your cost. This is also why Hachi doesn't want to repair a lot of units. He's still repairing, though, which I think may be a little bit of a mistake. But is he actually going to get his superpower this turn? I don't think so. Depends on what he does down in this area right here. He still hasn't bought any units. He seems to be playing relatively defensively, but yeah, it doesn't look like he'll be able to get his super up. Is he going to build infantry again, though? He creates a pretty nice wall here. And yeah, once again, he is just building infantry. He has 20k saved up. Is it going to be enough, though? Deegis now denying this Com Tower. Yeah, there was no way Maxstorm was ever going to get his hands on that. Now has 42,000 income to Maxstorm's 22,000. This is starting to look very, very ugly. Even takes a shot with the Neo tank. How disgusting is that? Rushes over the mountains. Now Deegis is straight up threatening to base lock Mechstorm, if Mechstorm is not careful here. In comes the bomber. There are no anti-airs in range. Now Deegis is even building some mega tanks of his own, because why not? He has the money to support it. He has to pull back a little bit. This is like the only front that Mechstorm is winning on at the moment. I mean, this is hilarious to watch. How often do you see a match like this between two world-class level players? I mean, this is my personal dream match. I've been wanting to see this for such a long time. I'm so happy both of these players said yes to actually playing this matchup. This is amazing. So yeah, but Deegis he's really taking it to him. Sending in all the units, pushing Mechstorm back on all fronts. And day 14 rolls in. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we will see the second Merchant Union being popped. And I'm excited to see if Mechstorm can find a way to come back into this game. He has 37k banked up. He has a unit count of 37. What is he going to do? He builds a fighter, 10k fighter. Takes a shot. I don't think this is going to work out that well. Oh no, he's definitely not getting that comm tower. He needs high-tech, high-value units. Oh, those Sturm infantry, man, they're so hard to deal with. They're so incredibly hard to deal with. But he's slightly winning on this front, if you don't count the wave of units coming towards him. And what is he going to do now? The Mega Tank is a little too slow. It's just being left behind in the dust here. Mechstorm is following it up with his units. He has to move them slowly, though, because Sturm can come back at a moment's notice and just deal so much damage to him. And you can see, even with a first strike and a power popped, it's still very hard to get value trades when going up against Sturm. Let's take a look at the other units that he decides to buy. An anti-air, a tank, an artillery in the city, a mega tank. I love to see the unit. I love to see how the replay viewer just bugs out during this. And he builds more infantry. And he's not even able to utilize his last base because they simply do not have the money for it. He simply just do not have the money for it. So day 14 rolls in, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm not liking Hachi's position right here. I'm thinking it's looking like Sturm's just gonna roll over him, and I think that's exactly what we'll see. I mean, his meteor strike is pretty far away from being charged. I don't think we're gonna see a second one, honestly. But man, Sturm's day-to-day is just too much, man. 20% firepower, 20% defense, and that perfect movement just allows him to take so many wild engagements that you just don't see coming. And despite the fact that Hachi, I mean, Mechstorm played Hachi beautifully here, saving up his income, utilizing most of his cities. But, I mean, just look at this. What is he going to do against this? What do you do against this? Now the bomber is coming in, dealing damage to the mega tank, which is going to drain a lot of repairs for Hachi next turn. Yeah, he's going to lose this base 100%. He's even going to lose this front. He has a decent army here, but you just can just avoid him. And he also has a Sturm mega tank. What is Hachi going to do against the Sturm mega tank on a silo? Seriously, what is he going to do? He can't deal damage to the thing. He doesn't have bombers to deal with it. So yeah, this is looking very bleak for Mechstorm. I don't think there is a single thing that he can do here personally, but let's see what he does. He does get a nice shot in on the bomber. Doesn't kill it though. He even kills a battlecopter. And look at this. Look at this. Look at it. Oh, you hate to see it. Set 3-7. I mean, that is just sad. He pops Barter. I think this is the resign Barter. Yeah, builds the pipe runner and resigns the match. That was wild, ladies and gentlemen. That was absolutely wild. So yeah, looking at this match, I think we conclude that we have a clear winner here. Sturm, Hachi, they're both broken. But I think as far as pure OPness goes, I don't think anyone can stand up to Advanced Wars 2 Sturm. His day-to-day is just too strong. Even a snowball CEO like Hachi, who can pull off insane things with his Merchant Union, he just cannot do anything against perfect movement and plus 20% firepower and defense. Maybe if we picked a different map, maybe Hachi would have been able to fare a little bit better. You can make the argument that day-to-day powers are more prevalent in mixed space maps, and thus Sturm would have a small advantage here. But this is a huge map with a lot of cities. So Hachi should, by all means, do well here. But you can see, like, even a top-tier caliber player like Sturm, he just got rolled over. And Aegis was just able to secure the income so high to the point where Hachi's unit discount just didn't end up mattering because Sturm had twice as much income as him. So, yeah, I think, you know, looking back, I was like, just to validate 16-year-old Mangs for a little bit, I was in the camp. I thought Sturm was the better out of the two. So if any of my old high school friends are watching this video right now, I told you so. I was right. Sturm was the better. I now feel very vindicated. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know if you enjoyed this match and if there's any other weird and wacky matchups you'd like to see being played by world-class Advanced Wars players. Leave them in the comment section below and let me know what you think about this match. Do you think Sturm is truly stronger than Hachi, or do you think he just won because of the map? Maybe there's another map you'd like to see them fight on. I'm open for suggestions. Anyway, leave a like and a comment on this video. I really appreciate it. My name is Mangs, and I'll see you lovely ladies and gentlemen next time. Bye-bye.